You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in Northport, Florida. I'm John Rawlings, and I have Commissioner Pete Emrich with me today. We're over at Dallas White Park. Let's just cue it up a little bit and tell people why we're here.
Well, apparently Jerome had a conflict in his schedule. You called me last minute. I had a conflict on mine, and I have to be here for a ribbon cutting ceremony at 4 o'clock. So you came mobile to meet the needs of the community to where you can get somebody on your show today.
Absolutely. I twisted his arm, did a little begging and pleading, and he goes, I can do it as long as you meet me at the park.
Yeah, and the good thing about this is it's always great stuff going on here.
Sorry about that. We popped in, popped out, and we're back
over.
on. Chuck English said hello and blessed day, gentlemen. Well, that's a kind word.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chuck. I appreciate that. We
Hello,
had
Chuck. Happy weekend.
Small little blackout with the internet, but we're back live, and I hope you can share this video because there's really good information coming up. As you mentioned, we're at Dallas White Park.
Yeah.
Give a quick overview again why we're here.
Yeah, I don't know if they caught that before, but we're doing a ribbon cutting ceremony for a wheelchair accessible swing that Kiwanis has generated and donated $10,000 towards, which I believe they did the same for the Boundless Playground years ago, just to make our parks a little bit more accessible to those in need that can come out and enjoy what we're doing today. It's a gorgeous day out. The wind is breezy, and
there's probably 40 kids here at the park right now. So it's a well-used park, well-liked park. We have the old behind us. We have the old YMCA, which was the old community pool from decades before. But now we've got the new water park and pool. And that's a great feature of Northport. But
a lot of history here. I was talking with one of the guys with Parks and Rec. He goes, I remember when I was 7 years old and I didn't listen and I jumped off and I broke my wrist, but I learned a lesson.
Yep.
So he's been here forever too. So it's great memories. You know, we come to Dallas White Park quite a bit back in the day, played volleyball, brought our kids here, had lots of group and company picnics over here, the Scout House. I mean, it is sort of like a center hub of Northport.
And we've got our kayak and boat launch in over here also for residents to use. And so we've got great access. We have 80 miles of canals that are clean and ready to go.
Yep.
And, I saw a comment that one of the guys said, hey, the water levels are up. We need to empty out our canals. Well, our canals are actually designed to do exactly what they're doing right now in non-rainy season, which is kind of hold water, because that's also our drinking water.
Sure. In certain areas coming down through the sloughs and
Sure.
everything like that.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, there are things that happen throughout our city, and one of the reasons I like to have the city commissioners on, there's lots of happenings in
Oh, yeah.
Northport.
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now.
And I'm going to throw a big one at you. And we didn't talk about this beforehand, but I know that you're prepared for anything. You always are.
Yeah, we'll see.
Warm Mineral Springs.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
I know, because that's kind of a park-related conversation.
It is. It is. So, what do you want to know?
You know, P3. Talk about that. I know that's in the paper. I know that it's kind of extinct, like a lot of dinosaurs. But talk about that a little bit, and let's figure out where we're going with the park.
Apparently, we got news that the P3 that we put out for it will not come through in transition because of the fact of costs and everything like that. When it comes down to the part of the springs itself, and one of the commissioners stated that, well, that puts us right back. That is not true. We have done studies. We have ecological studies coming in. I can't remember if it's March or May. I know it was an M month that we're due to get those stats back. But what it does is it puts us back on focus on, okay, we wanted to see what the P3 could bring us in rehabilitating the springs.
Right.
Okay, we did have $9 million earmarked to go ahead for the rehab projects. And by doing the Jack West design, I believe it came back at 18 to 20 million to do that. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have a commission meeting, workshop to discuss our plans going forward. And more than likely, we will look at options, possibly put out for an RFP to see what the footprint would look like with new buildings put on, and possibly, you know, it'd be like an admin building type thing for ticket sales and stuff, bathrooms, permanent bathrooms, and maybe some shower type installations, like outside showers like they have at you know, the beach and stuff like that, to where they can rinse off before departing. And that's looking at, you know, the lowest possible impact to the money, because you got to remember, we are going to have to bring in sewer and water out there. I believe the last quote was 3.5 million ish.
That has had to go up since the first quote.
Right. And that we got to take that into consideration. So let's just, for argument's sake, we'll put that at 4 million.
Right.
That leaves us 5 million of the 9 to go ahead and rehab those facilities. There's talk out there from certain people, myself included, about trying to keep the cyclorama and rehabbing it with possible help from Ringling's School of Arts, but we don't know what that actually entails. There's others that have spoke, well, we need to get rid of everything, let's just start new, but we need to have prices. We don't know what that's going to cost.
Right.
And I've always been a proponent on, you know, putting taxpayers' money into this. Well, that $9 million is taxpayers' money, but it needs to be done. It needs to be rehabilitated. It is an asset to the city, no matter which way on how we go. And then we got a lot of people that have been talking about the adjacent property, the other 62 acres. Well, if anything were to be done with those, the one thing that I've thought about that I would like to see happen is, and I talked with the city manager in my one-on-one today on, if we put a buffer in between those two areas, I don't know what the acreage would come out to, but let's say you have the Springs area, which is 21 acres. Then you have like 100 foot of trees, natural trees that stay there. And then the other acreage could be up for either lease or sale.
Right.
And right now, if we went to sell it, and I'm just using these as numbers to where people can understand, we paid like $5.5 million for the Springs to begin with. 9 more million brings it up to 14.5 million. The current rate of the property, the 62 acres, is approximately 16 to 16.5 million.
It would pay for everything.
It would pay for everything, and we would start off fresh. Okay, but that wouldn't leave us a lot of control on what went in there. The only control we would have is whatever it was zoned for.
Correct.
You know, people had said, hey, stick with the 2019 plan. Okay, Well, you're adding another $30 million to make that come to fruition on all the extras and stuff on that 62 acres.
Correct.
That was back in the day when it was proposed. So we were looking at a lot of different dollars. Now, if we lease it right now, I believe the lease expectancy is about 500,000 a year, and that would be contingent on how many years. If you did
And if we could find someone.
there's interest. If it was a 50-year lease, you're going to bring in $25 million. If it's a 100-year lease, that's $50 million on letting that property work for you, depending on what the development type structure looks like. That we do not know, but we do know that there is interest in both options, either lease or someone may be interested in purchasing it.
Well, we know something's going to have to happen at some point, because recouping money is always a good thing after you expend it. And I know people have talked about this in the past, that, oh, it's a moneymaker. It's truly not, if you looked at it through the business side of things, because you have to include the purchase, you have to include the rehab, you have to include every dollar. Now, it does bring in money,
Sure.
if you base it upon the fabricated numbers that we utilize.
It depends on what numbers you're looking at. We had a management company that ran it, so that took off of the city's payroll. But that was at about 45 grand a month, and I think we pocketed 25 grand ish, somewhere around there. 1 year it did generate over $1 million. 1 year, not every year, one year. And so, but then you're paying out 400 and something $1,000 into the management company. So the city didn't make that million; it made about half of that. And then you got your expenses on groundkeeping, which wasn't including in the management process. That was subbed out, and other things that were needed. So
technically we didn't make money.
We made small amounts of money,
Right.
but we did not make any type of money to where we could put it back into the facilities to fix them when they were already wary when we bought the compound.
So for those who are out there spouting, we made $1 million. Okay, that's true, but
There is truth to
in
it,
not
yes.
totality.
Correct.
So, and that it's good to have that foundation, because in order to build these buildings back, you have to have a good foundation. In order to have good conversations about the park itself, you have to have the good, clear talk about the foundation and the structure of the whole thing. And we've got structures out there that, in all regards, at least the buildings are pretty much gone. It's going to take a lot of money to rehab them at this point versus rebuilding.
Right. Well, it's going to take money for demolition
Yeah.
before you even start building. So when we're looking at that 9 million, we're looking at it's going to get sliced up into different areas. So what are we going to have left to be able to put those structures up that are needed?
So I've got a quick question from Bill or Chuck. I thought the city wasn't in business to make money, but to at least break even.
That's true.
That's a true statement, Bill.
But when you're investing park funds or city funds into parks, then you can also take that money, if there is an abundance or if there is a profit, and spread that throughout the park system to help maintain your park systems. So you're not making money, you're reinventing, you're re-putting it back into the system, because where does that money initially come from? Comes from your millage rate. So we can either make a few dollars here and put it back to use in the city, or we can just go ahead and raise the millage rate.
And so I'm going to clarify, and I've got another question coming up from Robin. Hi, Robin. How are you?
Hey, Robin.
Neither one of us are sitting here bashing the parks. We're sitting at one. I love the parks. I love our park system. I think we do a phenomenal job, and I'd love to see the growth even more. And I know that everyone would, because it's a vital part. But having us one drain the other areas because of, well, one, I can't even start with the city, because you have to go back when the park was owned prior to. prior owners didn't really take care of Warm Mill Springs, and then we got our hands on it and put band-aids on it.
But the prior owners, and I think Robin put a little comment up there about programming and stuff like that, the prior owners made money. You know, I think, I don't know if it was yearly or whatever, but I know one of the stats came through that they made over $1 million just from the gift shop in 1 year.
Right.
And they were selling little bottles of the Springs water, and,
Sure.
and people were taking it home as souvenirs.
Great comment, Robin.
Or taking it, you know, to be able to use some of the Springs benefits while they were back in Europe or whatever the case may be. So yeah, she's absolutely correct. There needs to be programming and stuff like that. To get it all to where everything's working.
Right.
And so I agree with her. Absolutely.
And nor do I disagree with her, but we're not even at the point where we can look at the park today, because going backwards is okay. We can have those conversations, but we can also have the same conversation of the ideas of prior to today are going to cost us even more money than they did then when it was analyzed. So
Sure.
the numbers are skewed based on the first proposal that was put into play, because those numbers don't apply to today's economy.
And, yeah, numbers have changed, dollars have changed, building costs have definitely changed. And yeah, it's correct. When we bought the Springs, we bought it in conjunction with the county, and the buildings were very dilapidated. And I remember way back in that day, I would think it was 2016 or whatever, prior to that, it was election time, and they had a bunch of stuff, Save the Springs, this, that, and the other. And I was for the county and the city buying it and getting together and doing it. And then you had another commission come through, and nope, that didn't phase out. So it became Northport's and Northport's alone. And then they wanted dedicated as a park.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with that comes costs. You know, before we could have split the cost with the county. We could have made joint ventures. You know,
well, ironically, the county actually spoke up again and said, "Hey, it's a big problem if Northport doesn't do something with it."
That's one county
commissioner. I know.
One county commissioner said that, and well, if you want to hold the whole county commission to the fire, where's the sidewalks that they promised going down Ortiz? Where's the sign on US 41 directing people to the Springs that they committed to, saying they would do so? They would budget for it, but no, we don't. But hey, it's election season, so
maybe it'll come. Maybe
it may come in the future, but I only see one out of all of them get grabbing on that bandwagon.
So I got a long one from Robin, and I hope I do this justice, but the city of Northport has been looking at the Springs for so many years now that it's exhausting for the commission and the residents. It's time to sell it to the state through the Florida Forever program, and let them run it. Implemented in the 2019. I'm tired of 2019 program.
Well, but it has its value. It has its merits. It's something that the commission went through, vetted, approved. The citizens had input, and I'm not dishing it completely. I'm just saying that it's cost preventative in my book to go ahead and follow through on that whole plan. Now, talking about selling it to the state, well, that went through years ago, and they did not want to buy it. They did not want to buy it. Now, if the price tag has gone up to, let's say, $16.5 million just for the 62 acres, not including the Springs,
it's still not going to want.
So you're looking at probably close to $25 million ish, and I'm not a property appraiser.
Sure.
And when they could have bought it for $5 million, they didn't want to buy it. So it's kind of hard to say that they would buy it now.
Well,
in my opinion.
So the park's the park. So right now we have a park that's really.
We have to focus on fixing it, and we're going to have workshops and meetings and decide. And I'm just one voice. I have no clue what the other commissioners are thinking about lease, sale, keep, do whatever. Hey, there might be some commissioners say, no, I want to go with the Jack West plan, and we need to come up with more money. I have no clue.
Another comment from Robin. Thanks, Robin. I appreciate it. The Florida Forever program has an emergency acquisition fund that they put $2 million in the core of the annually in order to purchase sensitive okay, so $2 million. They're gonna put $2 million towards it. So we again are gonna go upside down to save a park. Correct? Based on that, am I reading that correct, Robin? I mean,
well, it depends. She might have meant that they've put it in $2 million a year for so many years, and maybe they have a contingency fund in there.
She did. She commented. Hold on. Thanks, Robin. No, $2 million annually goes to the special fund, into the special fund.
Okay, but do they have a savings in that fund? Has it grown, or is it just $2 million? And if it's $2 million, then taxpayers out there on the other side of the people that want to preserve the springs would say, wait a minute, you just gave away $3.5 million.
Right.
In the long run.
And there are those of us out here that I'm a fan of fencing the whole thing off and not spending another dime on it until we figure it out. I know that a lot of people aren't into that, but majority of our community, we've got 90,000 plus. There's 2,500, 3,000 that care about the park.
She says it continues to grow because the special fund is for emergencies only. So they may have a contingency fund of more than that if they deem it an emergency.
So are we communicating with the state upon that idea, that concept at all? Or do you know?
I don't know.
Is that something that you would do as a commissioner at this point? Now, just kind of hearing this.
I think that when we go to look at all the options that are available, then we should look at some of those options. Due to the fact that now we would turn that property over to state land. That would no longer be city-owned property. That would be state-owned property. Then the state would be able to do whatever they want, preserve it, whatnot. Now, they may not want to leave it open and run it for the citizens out there or whatnot. They may want to treat it like a little salt springs and there's no access,
right,
even though that's owned by, University of Miami and they're still doing research over there. But you don't know what the outcome is going to be. And I did ask Jerome today on our one-on-one if and when we do go to constructing new buildings there, is it the plan to shut it down during construction or keep it open? And he had stated, which we had all stated, that we would love to be able to keep it open, maybe have different access points coming in while the certain areas are being in the footprint being constructed to where we can still allow access to the springs, because I don't really want to shut it down because construction could, let's say, take a year.
Right.
And then you have the individuals that have been counting on going to the springs and now they got to wait another year. And let's say another emergency comes through and now building supplies and now you're 2 years down the road before completion, and it just becomes a headache. So these are a lot of the things that we're trying to work through and get a thought process on, but we have to make these hard decisions on which way do we want to go, because we've got to make a decision and move forward.
Do we have a time frame for all these decisions to be made?
Well, I mean, you want the springs to sit there rotting the way that it is, or do you want to get on it and say, hey, we have a game plan. We know right now that there's no P3 in the future for the Warm Mill Springs itself, the 21 acres. So we hemmed and hawed trying to go through this process to see if that would be good, if that would be valid, because that wouldn't have cost us the amount of money. But now that we know that that's not going through, it's back to us to make it right.
Well, and this leads me into Robin's next question, because she said everything you're saying is exhausting because the commission has been dealing with this for many years. So again, wash your hands and sell it to the state through the program. At least they have at least have the discussion with the state. That's her input. That's an option, right?
It's an option.
Is that, and she's mentioned that she'd been to City Hall and and presented that to the commission several times, but it's kind of fallen on deaf ears. Is that because there was the thought of the P3 and running it through the P3?
We had to let the P3 go through fruition. Once we committed and the P3 partners committed, we had to go through to find out what was very feasible with the different types of studies, which we're still waiting on. They did their studies on their business aspects and found that they could not handle the financial burden of being able to rehab and run the springs. So at that point, that's when, okay, we're done with the P3 with this partner.
Yep.
So now what do? Now we're at the restaging board. I'm not saying we're back at the drawing board. We're at the restaging board on, okay, we're willing to make a commitment to go ahead and rehab the springs with the minor amenities like the public has said. We don't need Jack West structure. We don't need the big Taj Mahals out there. All we want is bathrooms, like a shower, and an admin building. So that's what we're looking at.
You know, we had
that's what we can afford.
We had Sable Trace Golf Course down the road here
Mm-hmm.
from Dallas Park, and I just drove in, and the housing development is going in there. And I bring this up not because of Sable Trace and the golf course and everything else, but when things get sold off, that is what can happen to the 62 acres at Warm Well Springs.
Absolutely.
And so it turns into housing. So, but you did save the park, and quite frankly, 62 acres and the park.
Well, this was the argument that I had with Jerome today, and it was back and forth. I said, Jerome, if we lease it, then we still retain control over the lease aspect agreements on what can go in there. I said, if we sell it, and if we were to sell it outright, then it becomes the property rights owners, and they can do whatever they want with that property. And he had stated, well, we still think that there is a possible way that we could still have control. I go, the only control you have once you sell that property is on the zoning of that land, unless you put it into the purchase agreement that they won't do A, B, C, and D. But then if they're looking at making money off of making a $16 million investment, they're not going to make that $16 million investment when you're trying to handcuff them to not doing what they want to do.
Right. Robin says there's not a there's no option for the lease.
What's that?
No option. She says not an option to lease.
That's her opinion. There's an option to lease out there. Absolutely.
Okay. If we're looking at Warm Well Springs overall right now, and you had your vision as the sole commission vote, what do you see it doing? What's your insight to what you hope Warm Well Springs will be?
Well, like I said, I would like to see where it gets rehabbed to where the people can still use the springs. You know, it is an asset to, you know, a lot of individuals out there. It may not be the whole community, but it is a very special place to a lot of individuals. So if you rehab it in the minor structures and stuff like that, we can still leave some history going on in there. Like I said, I was one of the proponents to hopefully save the cyclorama. Rather than getting rid of it, maybe a museum or something like out there to, you know, keep the culture going. With the other acreage, if it was to go up for sale or lease or whatever, I think I told you prior to the show, or I told Jerome this, but leaving, 4 acres or whatever of the property in between the two, so it's definitely separate, and you would have a natural buffer. And this way it's the existing trees and everything, so you're not even disturbing them at all, so I don't know how that works out or plans out, but that, but we got to get ahead of this. And the thing about it is what a lot of people don't realize, you got to look at the city as a whole when it comes down to money. We're getting ready to go into our budget talks right now. We're looking at a new police station, we're looking at bond referendums, we're looking at different ways, and there's going to come out with educational programs on why we're doing certain things, how we're going to try to do certain things. It is with the citizens' input on how do we do this. if a lot of those things sound good to the citizens and hopefully they approve it, this saves us from having to raise millage rates, because of the fact is that's what is with costs and everything going up. We have stayed stagnant, I believe, for 4 years on our millage rate. There's already talks about adjusting it either this year or next year, and those are discussions we're going to have as a board. But we may need to get on a steady increase going for getting the stuff that we need. The police station is $120 million. Where are we going to get that money from? Police is mostly under general fund.
Right.
Where's general fund come from? Millage rate. So, and that's safety. So do we cut back on services? Okay. We're trying to bond $50 million for the police station, and that would be paid back by surtax funds. That is not millage rate increase. That is not property tax increase. That is our surtax money from the 1 penny sales tax. So that would be 50 million of that. And then the other numbers are coming from different other sources, to where it may, like 28 million may come from the police. Just that again comes from general fund. There's so many friggin' buckets out there that it's hard to pick and choose and everything, because you can't take from one to give to the other.
Right.
Even though it is a safety factor. And there's options. Like I said, there's going to be a big educational program going on now and through the summer, because we need to know now to plan for the next few years. Because if we do get on a gradual increase, it could be 5% a year added onto your millage rate. It could be 3% a year for the next 3-4 years. And that hits people.
Well, that brings out a completely different crowd of people too.
Absolutely. But it hits every single person in this city. Correct. On their tax base, when there are other ways to where we may be able to prevent that.
So I'm going to go back.
That's all I'm saying on that.
When we had the last proposed millage increase, and I'm just going to take a sector of town, Northport, Welland Park.
Yeah.
That group of people connected to Northport in a hurry.
Sure.
And in vast numbers. When they thought their millage rate was going to go up a little bit, not a ton either.
A little bit. There was 30% is what the rumor went out there was 30%. And actually, I believe went up 13.49 or 13.69 at the end of all that.
Right.
But it's understandable, because you got city taxes, and they got CDDs, they got HOAs, they got county taxes. They were just getting hammered right and left. And what are their properties? They're all new properties. So that's the top value of properties. So they're getting nailed right and left, hopefully coming down here to save their monies. And I understand what they're going.
But they didn't buy 20 years ago.
No. And then I'll remember this till the day I die, is like when Commissioner Hanks said, well, sometimes you just got to rip off the Band-Aid.
Yeah.
I sat at the end of the dais and I just shook my head. I couldn't believe he said that.
Well, and Chuck says, not to change the subject, could you comment on the proposed expansion of Activity Center 3 as it relates to the expansion 3 times its existing size, and in the impact it'll have in your MAC at your feet and wildlife corridor? MAC at your feet. Not sure what that means, but
which one's 3? Is that the one off of Sumter? You talking about Lady Slipper area?
Comment, Chuck. We talk about the changes in activity centers and the rezoning and all these things that are happening.
Yeah, Myakka Heron Creek. Yeah,
Myakka Heron Creek. Thanks, Rob.
That's what I thought it was. I lose numbers all the time, and I apologize for that. But yeah, I haven't had any discussions on it, and I know that there's a lot of groups out there. Well, there's especially at least one that they're meeting, and I'm hoping to hear feedback from them when they come to the commission through our workshops and stuff, because I want to hear their input. I want to hear what our staff's input is, to where we can have a decent conversation and see what the right process would be. When I first heard about that area out there, is that there was a lot of homeowners that were desperate in need on trying to get out of the Lady Slipper area, because nobody would purchase those homes because of the flooding and stuff out there. And by zoning it mixed use or commercial, that would have been their ticket out of there. And then come to find out that on the other hand of it, that people didn't know that that was actually going on. So where did this conversation come from for what I was told in the first place? So there's a lot of miscommunications going on out there. And I would like to hear both sides before I would make a decision on that. So I'm just trying to be honest with you. I haven't been updated on that specific area lately.
So, and that area doesn't stand by itself, though.
No, you got a lot of the estates areas out there and coming in towards Heron Creek, like Chuck said,
and you've got, well, look, the Heron Creek Sumter corridor has forever gotten a facelift recently with all the construction that's going on there, with the apartments that are going in there. But those were built based on what was called for, and the builder finally built them.
Yeah.
And we didn't have take in consideration what you just said about the 62 acres. We sell the 62 acres. You don't have control unless you sell it to the state, which Robin said. But you that same thing happen out at that 62.
I mean, the way that it's zoned, and let's just say the P3 went through. You got your apartment buildings, you got your condos, your villas, you got your little miniature golf course or whatever that they had planned in there. That can still come.
And what does that do?
And I'm not saying it's the same people that are interested in it. I'm not saying that that's going
so
forward. So I'm not trying to scare anybody.
Yeah, but if you took that 62 acres and you found a developer who wanted to come in and develop that and do it the right way and connect it with Warm Rose Springs, such as a P3 would have, the whole thing around the park is it now becomes more of a valuable piece to the city, doesn't it?
It would, and you know, it's just hard to. Maybe there would be somebody out there that would like to say, "Hey, I want to take my $16 million and I want to go ahead and build your 2019 plan out there. I don't want anything back from it. I just want to do that."
Right.
That could happen.
Well, if we actually took the 2019, and I just get tired.
I know you hate talking about it.
I do. I hate the topic because there's no end game. I kind of side with Robin in a sense. With I'm tired to talk because we've been talking about it since we purchased it, and I'm just done. I'm over. And I think most people, including commission, at times are frustrated from no end game. Because it's a grind right now. Because you got to have funding. You got to have somebody putting up the funding. If you're going to spend tax dollars, then you got to take the heat from everybody that says you're going to spend tax dollars on that versus, and you're going to raise my taxes because you don't have money for this.
If we would have stayed with the county, I don't think we'd be having any of these conversations today, because
at least you know you have one commission at county that says yes.
Have they ruined Snook Haven? Do they still have the cabin atmosphere out there? Do they still have the waterway out there? Do they have like bands and a restaurant and everything out there?
Yep.
Okay. So that could have been something that was very feasible here,
right,
with minimalized by not using a lot of that land to go ahead and put up your condos and stuff. You could have had cabins out there, you know, with the county. Okay, hey, this is what we want to do. You guys put in $1 million, we'll put in $1 million. Hey, you know what? We got surtax. You got surtax. Hey, let's put in $2 million each, and this is what we're going to make. And then it's not on the burden on the taxpayer, but you made it better. And that's doing it as a partner.
Well, and there are ways of looking at the investment side of things. I come from a city that owns golf courses and owns ways to make money, and golf courses, by all intentions, when they're open 5 months out of the year, they don't make money. They're there to be an add-on to the infrastructure of the quality of life in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you add these things together, I mean, we had an opportunity, and I'm going to go right back to Sable Trace. We could have done something creative there, and so could the people around it if they would have gone in with the HOA. I'm not saying that that it's their fault that it's gone. What I'm saying is there are valuable pieces of property that are no longer valuable once they're gone, and Sable Trace is gone. Sable Trace is now going to be housing. The city makes dollars from that,
Sure.
and so you're not disappointed in that, but you make good money from the apartments that are going up on as far as services go. Your services are better spent in complexes like that because your trash is one spot. Your
For
police fire,
multi-units,
it's
yeah.
multi-unit. We don't quite frankly, as a city our size, we don't have that many. So now we're getting them, and I think it's throwing everybody off the mark because we're actually acting like a bigger city.
Yeah, and they see the clear cutting out there. They're not seeing the end game. They're not seeing what that development's going to look like when it's done. They say, "Oh, they've done this. Well, they've mitigated it. It's their property. It's their right." And yes, I would love to save the trees, but we've got we've got environment around us all over the place.
Sure.
And
And I'm going to say this because Robin commented, with golf courses you have utilization and runoff, and
absolutely.
I 100% agree with you. I think it's let's cancel golf in the nation. I think it's irresponsible to even come up with a plan, Robin. I love you, and I love your theories, but that one to me, you're not going to get rid of it. So something different than that. And I'm going to, because I'll go one extreme, but I won't go to the other extreme with the conversation, because canceling things, it's like saying, I don't want rezoning and I don't want Price Boulevard to happen and I don't want Sumter widened. Okay, it's too bad. You're going to lose. We lost as a city. We legitimately have one golf course in our city now. One, Heron Creek. We don't have another one. So go to Heron Creek and shut it down. Look at the property values. What's going to happen there? They have runoff. They have fertilization. They have all those things.
I believe there's another one coming though. But
Well, that would be good, and that might be it. Bobcat, maybe.
no, it's the Toledo Blade projects, not the 320, but the other one.
All right. So it's interesting. I all the things that we had as youth. It seems like these the far involved at this point in canceling things. I'm over the cancellation. Let's get rid of everything. Move on from we can't do anything. We can do it right, but we need to do it right. And is that what is that what you're trying to do at Warm Meadow Springs as a collective?
Well, I'm trying to get off of Warm Mill.
I am too. I'm going to
because
go now, but go ahead.
I'm just trying to incorporate the whole city. I moved down here in '78, and Northport didn't have hardly anybody out here. 20,000 people at that.
Yeah,
small community. But right now we're building and building and building. More people are coming, and we can't stop it. and we're 85,000 now. And so how do we do that correctly? It's like you have to cherish the memories of the past, because it's never going to be like that anymore.
Sure.
Unless you move to a different area that's starting to grow like Northport. But guess what? 10, 15 years down the road, you're going to get into another stage of Northport, just in a different area, because they're starting to become a fast growing community as well. So it's sad to see happen, but that's what life's all about. It is moving forward.
So, when we're going through the growth side of things and commission, with all the things that are happening, the rezoning, the talk about the expansion out in with the new exit, the hospital. I want to get this rumor that goes out there: is the hospital coming or not? Yes or no?
We'll talk about that the next time I'm on your show.
All right.
I'm going to leave you hanging. No, it's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
You don't scare me like that. All right. So the rumor that's out there that there's no hospital coming.
There's two coming, actually.
All right. So, we are definitely a target for growth. from 23 years ago when I moved here, we were at 20,000 aroundish. We're at 90 in 23 years. We're going to be at 100 in a year. There's not a doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
And the minute we get to 100,000, every business out there is going to have a target for Northport.
Just remember this: all of the building that they see are going on are not currently occupied.
Correct.
So by the time they're at completion, guess what? There's your other, 10,000, 20,000 people.
And so I'm gonna answer a quick question. I brought Heron Creek into it because of the only golf course, Chuck, and the fertilization and the runoff. We have a bigger problem, and I'm going to bring this up to you because I have mentioned it before, and I'm definitely going to bring this up as far as what Charlotte County does with their septic. And I think we need to incorporate a septic inspection every 4 years to make sure that we're not having the same problem. Our aquifer is right underneath us. We have problems with septic tanks with the leakage. I think we should incorporate in a septic inspection every 4 years. And if you don't have it inspected or don't have it fixed or replaced, now there are certain things you can repair on a septic, there are certain things you can't. But all these environmentalists out there jump on board with this idea and run with it, because the truth of the matter is we talk about our water, we talk about trees, we talk about all the other BS that comes with environmentally friendly, but we never talk about sewage. And we literally are on top of our drinking water. And I think we should respectfully take a look at incorporating in a septic inspection requirement every 4 years just to make sure our tanks are good. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know about the 4 years. I don't know if that would be your normal type thing. 5 years maybe, which is just another year, 10 years. I don't know what the longevities of them are, but
20 years.
Okay, but here's the deal. What if you go out and you find that this septic tank is failing?
Yep.
Okay. You, Joe homeowner, you got to fix it, or, what are you going to do? You can't live here no more. There's no sewer or water in that area. So what do you do? Do you abandon the people in their homes because they cannot fix their septic tank?
We have got to look at our sister community, which is Charlotte County. They've instituted it. It's not. I'm not contrary. I'm not even bringing up the fact that we get a tree ordinance from across the state and we incorporate that in, and we don't look like that city. I'm talking about a city that looks like ours that has already incorporated it in.
You didn't just bring Jacksonville in.
I did. Lordy have mercy. I'm like crushing it all today. I'm at it. But my frustration is we talk environmental, but we never truly talk environmental, and we skirt issues when we think. And listen, I'm putting you on the spot, and you're my friend on top of my commissioner. But it truly is something that needs, and I brought this up beside you. I brought this up to multiple. It needs to be looked at because we truly are environmentally friendly in this town. We focus on it. We talk about it. We promote it.
Well, we're getting a lot more active in it with our environmental department, and I got good hopes on seeing what they can bring to the table, and make sure that we're doing things proper out there, especially for the environment, especially for the habitat. And I hope to be able to, just have this city grow as proper as possible.
Well, and here's the other side of this is if we started, and I'll give you a little bit of education as far as the septic side of things go, but if we actually incorporated that in, yes, there's going to be some septic tanks that are found to be out of commission. And there has to be some resolution on that in a time frame, because those same tanks, they're out of commission now. It doesn't matter if they go 10 more years out of commission, how many more are behind it? So as a city, respectfully, we have to kind of look at that. But if you have a septic inspection every 4 years, it's technically about $350. Now, if you have a pump out, which you should have every 4 years, they can do that. But if you're doing a pump out every 4 years and you're preserving that tank, and we have documentation like South County does, or Sarasota or Charlotte County does, now we're talking about a good database that we're running on these homes, that really it enhances the home and the value and the life expectancy of the tank. Because if you're putting the wrong things in your tank, every 4 years they get pumped out. I know, I went there. I keep going there.
I'm just amazed at how much you know about shit, John.
Man, and it listen, there's mounds of it, and I'm part of it, and I'm owner of that. But we've hit Wormhole Springs, we've hit the septic side of things, we've hit the hospital, we've hit zoning. One thing I keep getting comments, we hit budgets. I mean, vast amount of information. But on 3/16, Jerome Fletcher will be live on the air with me. I would hope that you all join then, and tell your friends to join in, because I will be rapid firing questions at him based on what you're providing. And I really appreciate you guys doing that.
One more,
Sean, before we
one more quick thing.
Right, go ahead.
It forward. This Wednesday at the public library.
Yep, absolutely. They do a great job.
That's a good informational spot if you can make it. And I don't know if they're live feeding it yet.
I am going to be there, and I am going to live feed it, so it will be live on the air. I won't be able to take. I will take your questions down, and I will get them to them, but I won't be able to flash them up and get questions unless we go into the Q&A, and I can ask your questions at that point. But anybody has my cell phone number knows that they can text me a question, and I'll definitely ask, even if it's not from me. And if I don't like it, I'll still ask it.
I got one question, and then I got to go to my ribbon cutting.
All right, so I know you got ribbon cutting coming up, and we got to go anyway. But is there any update on the basketball court and the AC unit? Are we getting closer to having a floor there?
We are getting closer, and if I remember correctly, there was no warranty going to be applied to the floor if we used the temporary AC units. But by being self-insured, I think we're going to bypass that and just go ahead and install them with the temporary AC units until we're looking at 1 year to 2 years to get to permanent AC units. So, yes, we are going forward with the floor, and I don't have the exact dates on when they're going to start construction, but hopefully we're going to get in there soon. And that was as of a meeting of a month ago.
So I go live with Jerome on the 16th of next month.
Ask him. He should have exact dates on
what's going. Will you kind of follow up and kind of lead in that he needs to have an answer for that? Will you follow up?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but I do believe that's the route we're going, because it came down to warranty. I go, well, how much does the floor cost? It's mostly the AC units is what we needed. I think the floor was only $30,000. So if it fails,
right,
it fails.
It fails. So listen, I appreciate everybody. He's got to go to a ribbon cutting. It's almost 4:00 now, but thanks for joining in. Thanks for participating. Robin, Chuck, Sean, thanks for your comments. Anybody else that has any questions, 941-391-4663. I'm going to be live on the air briefly with the orchestra on Saturday around 9:30. Just to give you some updates there on what's coming up. And then again, when's the Northport Forward?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday,
6 p.m. at the public library.
Yeah, and I'll be there at the Northport on 41 at the public library. I'll be there, and I'll be going live with that meeting. We're trying to get this information out to each and every one of you. Please share it. Enjoy your night and be safe out there. Thanks a lot for watching, and have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Actually, I won't see you on Monday. Holiday. I'm going to take it off. You guys have a good one. Thank you.